We had our baby. This is Phoenix Blue. Yeah. Is that you, Papa? We are at the hospital. We're gonna go get checked, and hopefully get things going and meet you soon. Here we are in your delivery suite. Take two, because I had to change my top with spit up all over it and Phoenix needed to sleep. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney and I tend to let my inner ADHD get in the way of making vlogs. So it turns out January's goal of making a vlog like every month didn't go according to plan, but in my defense I did have a baby. Yes, welcome to my birth story vlog. I'm so excited to sit down and like get this all down and out, because A, it's really easy to forget how it all happened, and B, when that like clucky baby fever creeps up and I'm thinking maybe baby 3 would be a good idea, I can watch this vlog and say get a dog. Do with that what you will. Anyway, Phoenix Blue joined our family on the 4th of March this year, and he is just so sweet. Obviously, I mean, like, what baby isn't so sweet? He has made us a family of 4, and oh, I can't believe we're like 3.5 months in. It has been a wild ride, and I feel like my birth story was a wild ride. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and let's get into it. So before starting off my birth story, I did want to like dive into my birth plan, just to kind of give you guys a overview of how I thought things would go through. So Tom, my husband, and I moved to the UK almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago, and that was kind of always the goal. We thought like, we're gonna move here, we're gonna have another baby here, and that's how we saw things go. To be honest, before falling pregnant, I had no idea about how that would look and work here compared to private healthcare back in Cape Town. Not a whole lot of differences, except going private in Cape Town with Heath, we had one midwife who we saw throughout the whole journey, and we also had, like, before we switched over to midwife care, we had a private OB-GYN who we did scans with like every 6 weeks. Like, the care was really routine. We'd go every 6 weeks for checkups and all that, whereas here you kind of go every now and then. I think I only met my midwife around 16 weeks. But anyway, with Heath, I ended up getting induced. My plan was to do a home birth, but he was measuring really large and he was a week overdue, and to be honest, I was just like full of being pregnant, and I was quite nervous about doing a home birth in hindsight. But he was the most perfect, in my mind, in my experience, like perfect birth. Had an epidural, it was really calm, I didn't tear, and it was just, I don't know, I look back on that memory and it's very special. And that's kind of the same thing I wanted with Phoenix. We just wanted like a happy baby, healthy mom. Whatever happened would happen, but ideally we'd do a water birth in the birth centre, and this is what the birth centre looks like here in Truro. It's so nice, so nice. So yeah, the goal was to have our birth in the birthing suite, in the pool, and just do it really as natural, low intervention as possible. But let's dive into what actually happened and how that was slightly different. With Phoenix, because I've had a few miscarriages, I got to have a scan at 6 weeks, which was really cool and awesome, and then I had another one at 12 weeks, and everything had been tracking okay the whole time. Like, I think there was a bit of a scare, not a scare, just like my midwife wanted to look into it a bit more just after Christmas, so that would have been 32 weeks, where he was tracking a little bit bigger than his last appointment. So she was like, wow, this baby's had a big growth spurt, probably nothing to worry about, let's just keep an eye on it. And I went for a scan and everything was totally fine. He was just a big baby. Then because of that big jump in growth, it kind of threw things off a little bit, and I went for my 37-week appointment, and he was measuring a lot smaller compared to his growth curve. So my midwife was again just like, probably nothing to worry about, let's just go and get it checked out, go for another scan, like worst comes to worst, you have another scan and have another picture of a baby. So great, perfect, no problem. But the funniest part about this is that my sister, my mom, and like my group at work, I was constantly saying to them, I want a leap year baby. Like, that is my goal. Even though a baby will be like a little bit early, 37 plus like 5, so not totally early. He would have been fine, but I was just like, I want a leap year baby. That sounds so cool to me. Let's do it. And I saw my midwife on the Wednesday, and I think the leap year was on the Friday. So it was just a really funny thing. We were all like, oh my gosh, Courtney, you were right all the time. So that being said, I went for my scan, and he was measuring quite small. His tummy was a lot smaller, and they basically said to me, you know, it's up to you. You can leave it. Leave baby, like we'll check in again in like a few weeks or a few days, whatever it was. It's probably nothing, but you know, at the same time, if we do leave it and we check again and there's something to worry about, we've lost a few days where we could have intervened. And I actually had to go to this appointment by myself because Tom was with Heath, and just something in my gut was just like, you know what, let's not mess around, it's fine, baby's gonna be okay, let's just get him out. At this time we didn't know he was a he. Just get it out and we can deal with whatever happens afterwards. And now, like looking back on it, I think what also shaped this decision was because Tom and I have no family here. My mum was coming over in like the next week, and just something about that felt really safe, just knowing that I was going to go through this thing and then my mum would be there immediately afterwards, and it just felt really like that's just where it was supposed to be. So what we decided to do after meeting with the doctors on that Wednesday is they gave me a stretch and sweep, and they actually found out I was 1 centimeter dilated already. So with Heath, when I got induced, I was like nothing, and I was really weak, overdue, nothing was happening, just completely closed. So that was really encouraging to me, and they gave me a couple of days to see if I'd go into labor by myself. So that was the Wednesday, and then my induction was booked on the Saturday. And I got home, I like did the ball, did the walk, did the hot food, did like all the things, except the thing that would have really worked, you know what I mean? I did all the things trying to bring on this labor naturally, and contractions did start. I think it was either the Thursday or the Friday. My poor friend walked up and down Falmouth with me, and we just like curb walked, we did all the things. And I really did feel like, oh my gosh, things are going to start happening. And I got really excited because I was like, yes, I don't need to be induced. Like, this is all going to happen by itself the way that I wanted it to happen. How amazing is this? And to be honest, I did get really sad and stressed out, and I probably should have just relaxed a bit more than what I was. Because I didn't really want to get induced, but it is what it is. Anyway, long story short, baby wasn't coming by itself, and we were off the next day, Saturday, to go to Truro Hospital to start the induction process. They let me try and contract by myself for a few hours just to see if anything would happen, and they kind of like, you know what, let's go ahead. And I got the pessary thingamajiggy. It's like a little wafer that they pop up on your cervix, and then that helps ripen your cervix, I guess, thin it out and bring on labor. So that was for 24 hours, and the next day they checked me and nothing. It was zero, nothing. The pessary hadn't worked, and I was just so defeated. I was on the ball the whole night trying to like do deep lunges and everything, but nothing obviously was working. And then our wonderful midwife came down, and she was like, are you ready to go up to your room? Like, we can start the induction process now if you want. And I was so happy. This was probably around 10 o'clock the next day, so I've already been 24 hours of the induction process. And then, yeah, they got me upstairs, got me admitted, got me on the drip, started things, and I really don't know why, actually. I don't know why I really wanted to try and go and do it without an epidural, because I did the oxytocin with Heath and I remember it being bloody painful and thinking I'm never not doing this again without an epidural. But somehow, for some reason, Courtney on the 2nd of March, 1st of March, whatever it was like, you're not going to do this with an epidural, you can do it without one. I did the oxytocin drip, probably from like 10 to 6. I did that, and then I still hadn't really dilated at all. I'd only dilated just enough for them to break my water. That's when labor really started, and I was just like, I'm ready for my epidural, gimme, 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 gimme. But my midwife at the time said, look, you know, if you can wait, I would advise it, because the anesthesiologist who's on call now is just coming off of like a 13-hour shift. It's totally up to you, but like in my opinion, I would wait for the doctor who is fresh and who has like a fresh pair of eyes to come and do it. So I said, oh, okay, cool, like yeah, fine, happy to wait, just please tell them as soon as they come on shift that I'm first for an epidural. Great, no problem. So eventually I get my epidural at 12 in the morning, and as I get the epidural I feel this like big shock go through my body. My blood pressure completely dropped to like nothing. They were really worried about it. They were trying to like, get it back up. They injected some things. I don't know, it was just like, it just felt really chaotic and I just couldn't. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling before you're about to faint where your ears go really like fuzzy almost and you can't hear anything. It was just like that, and I just remember saying to Tom, I was like, if it comes to it, like you need to save the baby. And I know that sounds really dramatic now, but that's how I felt. I just felt like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel very good at all. But obviously I'm fine, and I'm just a drama queen. And then the fun thing is that the epidural went through my spinal dura and essentially isn't working the way it should be working. So the doctor has to come in every 40 minutes to top it up. But unfortunately, the epidural would only last for 10 minutes and then completely wear off again. But I thought, you know, the plus side of going through all of this and being labelled for so long, at least I'm going to be dilated and things are going to go really quickly now. Because that's what happened with Heath. I got my epidural and like I started dilating straight away. And then when I checked me, I was only at a 3 after all that time. I was just so defeated, just being like, thankfully I was able to nap in between the epidural and all of that, and then Phoenix Blue was born at 8:30 that next morning. The midwife came off her shift and I got a new midwife, and then they checked me. I was at an 8, and at this stage I was like, oh my gosh, I need more epidural, it's so painful. And then they're like, no, you're ready to push, let's do it. And I pushed him out within 5 minutes and he was there, and he was just this perfect little big-headed bean, and it just felt like all of that happened was worth it. It was all worth it. I will say though, to be like completely frank and honest, I was so tired and out of it that I was just like, what happened? But when Phoenix was born, he had a lung infection, so we had to stay in hospital for 36 hours. That was also just like something you don't really account for, you know, when you're looking at your birth plan. What will happen if I have to stay? And then also Phoenix had a heart murmur. There was something about his hip that was turned in, so he had to get a heart scan done. And he get to go home after the 3 days. Before we get dismissed from the hospital, a doctor comes to check Phoenix, and they're like, he's got a bit of a tan. So he had jaundice, which actually got worse before it got better. But we just powered through with lots of breast milk, and it cleared his system pretty easily. But at the time I just remember it being like the scariest thing ever. And thank goodness my mom was there for all of this. I think if she wasn't there with me, I would have absolutely had a nervous breakdown, because she really was our rock through it all. She like helped clean the house, look after Heath. So shout out to Lovey. But that, I feel like in a nutshell, was my birth story. It was not what I was picturing at all in the slightest. So I hope you like listening to this birth story. I know I tend to ramble on quite a bit, but hopefully you came along that journey with me and felt all the feels with me. Again, if you're a first time mom watching this, don't take this story and be like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Not that this was terrifying, but don't let this shape your idea of what your birth could look like. My best advice is just to go with the flow. Don't be too stuck on your birth plan, because you never know what's going to happen. And I feel like if you know you can just go with the flow and trust that you're in good hands, that's the best way to just surrender to the moment and just be like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Like, baby's fine, I'm fine, whatever. For second time mums, you can do it. You definitely can handle 2. It's intense, I'm not gonna lie. It was quite a big shift to go from 1 to 2, but I'll do another video on that shortly, hopefully, if I remember to. But until then, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Comment down below if you have any questions about my birth story, about birth in general, and if you want to see anything from my channel, please let me know. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!